Father Damien was born in 1840 in the town of Tremulo, Belgium. Father Damien came from a rather poor Belgian family. In fact, he was almost denied a position as priest because of his lack of education. Still, he was a quick study, and his superiors, fortunately, allowed him to take on the priesthood. While he studied, he prayed regularly that he would be sent off on an official mission, which means packing your bags and traveling to some far-off corner of the world to minister to people there. I want to stop and unpack that for a second. How would you react if your boss came to you one day and said, "We're transferring you to rural India, effective immediately. If you're lucky, you might be able to come home for a short visit after a few years of working there"? I imagine that not many of you would relish the prospect. I know I wouldn't. But all Father Damien wanted was to be given the opportunity to do so. In the end, he got his wish and was sent to Hawaii as a missionary to the people there. Now, granted, if you're going to be a missionary somewhere, Hawaii is a pretty nice spot, but it's on the other side of the planet from Belgium. And considering that airplanes capable of intercontinental travel wouldn't exist for another 55 years, at least, there was a very real possibility that Damien would never return. As a matter of fact, he didn't. You see, Hawaii was having some very real problems at the time in regards to foreign diseases. Thousands of Hawaiians were dying of influenza, syphilis, and other ailments that foreigners had brought over with them, and that the Hawaiians had no natural resistance to. One of these sicknesses was Hansen's disease, better known as leprosy. Leprosy is one of the most horrifying diseases that exist. If left untreated, it can lead to incredible physical disfigurement and eventually death. Lepers can usually be spotted because of their many skin lesions, deformed or non-existent extremities, and numerous infections. It's a long, slow, and terrible disease accompanied by extreme social stigma. At the time, the disease was incurable and considered highly contagious. Because of that, the government of Hawaii instituted a quarantine on all lepers. They were sent to 2 isolated colonies on one end of the island of Molokai. The over 8,000 lepers there soon lost hope. Drunkenness, depression, and lawlessness became epidemic. Not long after Father Damien arrived in Hawaii, the Bishop of Honolulu decided that the lepers at least needed a priest to attend to their spiritual needs. However, he knew that sending someone there could prove to be a death sentence. He refused to order any priest to take on a possibly suicidal mission, instead asking for volunteers. Father Damien was one of 4 priests who offered to take up the position. The bishop decided that they would work at the colony in turn so that their own danger would be somewhat minimized. Damien went first, and he never came back. When it came time for the next priest to take his place, Damien requested that he stay on at the colony permanently. The request was granted. When Damien arrived, he saw that the lepers needed more than just spiritual aid. He built a small church and then busied himself building houses and furniture, dressing wounds and ulcers, and even making coffins and digging graves for those who succumbed to the disease. He became a leader in the community and organized working farms, ensured that basic laws were enforced, and established schools. He helped turn rundown shacks into painted houses, built orphanages, and generally worked to improve the lepers' quality of life. However, after 11 years of hard work, Father Damien contracted leprosy. After discovering his condition, he sought to complete the construction of as many houses as he could before his health failed him completely. He arranged for 4 others to come and continue the work he had started. Within 5 years, Damien succumbed to the disease. After his death, the whole settlement attended his funeral. In 2009, the Pope declared Damien a saint. His legacy has inspired many over the years, including Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi said that, "The political and journalistic world can boast of very few heroes who compare with Father Damien of Molokai. The Catholic Church, on the contrary, counts by the thousands those who, after the example of Father Damien, have devoted themselves to the victims of leprosy. It is worthwhile to look for the sources of such heroism." I agree with Gandhi. It is more than worthwhile to look to the example of the heroes who devoted their lives to helping those who had been rejected by society, who have suffered great pain with no hope of recovery. The kind of person who gives up a life of comfort to help those whom most people would consider beyond all help. Many of us can name great athletes or successful businessmen, or politicians who achieved great power. but except for certain individuals like Mother Teresa, we have few moral heroes to look after. Well, in my next video, I'll have another hero to tell you about.